This is the Sigma BF, and it's got quite a lot of controversy around it due to the fact that it doesn't have a hot shoe, it doesn't have external memory, and it doesn't have a viewfinder whatsoever. Who is this camera for, and what the hell do they make this for? We're going to talk about that in today's video, and yeah, stick around and see how it goes. All right, so first off, the design of this thing is incredible. It's very slick, very sleek. You know, the edges are sharp, and it just is soft where it doesn't need to be sharp. We have a good place to put our hand, and it has a nice little thumb grip, and it actually feels a lot like holding the Leica Q series. And I do love that about this camera, that it is very light and easy to carry. Unfortunately, there's only one hole on the side for the anchor, so you have to either do a wrist strap or just use a Peak Design strap and just strap your strap in there. It's easy, just like that, which is kind of annoying, and I wish they would have changed that, but it goes back to the design of this camera. This also does not have an SD card at all, so you have to use USB, all internal storage, which is around 230 gigabytes worth, which will get you pretty far, especially if you're shooting stills. And I feel like this camera is definitely meant for people that are shooting stills over video. The video is just, it wouldn't be great for video in my opinion. The autofocus in video is not as good as the autofocus in photo. The autofocus in photo is phenomenal, and it sticks on the eye very well. And yeah, the autofocus is great. I would compare it with a Sony a7 IV if I had to compare it with anything as far as autofocus speed goes. A lot of people talk about this looking like something Apple would make, and I've heard it over and over again, and it does remind me of the iPod a little bit, because it has the wheel and it has the cool play button, and it is a little retro-ish feeling, but with a modern spin on it. I could also see Teenage Engineering making something like this, but this is Sigma. And the reason it's so Apple-esque to people is because of this color. If it was just black, I don't think anybody would really say that, to be completely honest with you. This is the same color as my MacBook and my iPad, so I can understand where people say that, but it's just Sigma being Sigma. They're doing their thing, and they're enjoying themselves, and I appreciate that. I really like the front finish here on the right. It kind of goes for your grip, and it does stick to your hand very easily compared to this side of the camera. As you see, it is really nice. It has this mesh material on it, and it looks great. The wheel also has that mesh imprint on it as well, and it's really nice to spin the wheel. A little ASMR there. All right, I do like the functionality of this camera. A lot of people want to complicate this, and it's really not complicated. Honestly, it's one of the easiest cameras to understand if you've ever shot on a camera before, a professional grade camera. All you need is ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and Kelvin, and your aperture is already here, so really we're boiling it down to the other three, and maybe you use auto white balance, so then you just have two things to worry about within the camera system itself. And you don't have to go into any menus. You can click left or right and get exactly to where you want to be rather quickly. I can shoot this camera just as fast as I can shoot any other camera. It's just getting kind of used to the fact that you don't have dials for it. It's more like flipping around through the system a little bit. If you used ISO last or shutter speed last, whatever you half press the shutter, that's what setting's gonna pop up. So you can immediately change it with the wheel, no matter where you're at in the menu system. Let's say I'm on my autofocus setting for some reason, and I'm walking the streets and I need to change my shutter speed really quick. I'll just half press the shutter and then spin the wheel, quickly changing my shutter speed. That's a good function for this camera because I feel like a lot of people are getting irritated with having to go through the menu kind of to get to one or the other. So I could understand where it would irritate people, but at the same time, it's not that bad. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. There's no hot shoe on this camera, and it sucks because I was shooting headshots the other day and I wanted to use it, and I didn't have a constant light. I was using strobes, but unfortunately, you can't use any type of flash on this. You can't use any type of mic on this. And that's where I think that it falls apart on the video side of things, because a lot of people are gonna want to use this for video, I believe, and I don't know why. I really do feel like it is a photocentric camera, and I think they just threw video in there just like they did with the Leica Q systems. It's kind of like something that you'd have if you were in a pinch, and although it does shoot over 6K, I think it's just saying that they put video in there for whatever reason. And I don't really even want to get into it, but I'll show you what it looks like and how slow it is. All right, so this is the autofocus test and the microphone test for the Sigma BF. And I wanted to talk about pixel connection today. This is a great place to buy all of your used and new equipment. You can actually pick up a Sigma BF there in a couple of weeks after this video is launched. Definitely check them out. They also buy gear, which is amazing. So call them and see what your gear is worth today at thepixelconnection.com, or you can visit them in Nashville or Ohio. All right, autofocus test. If I had to guess, it's hunting, and the audio is gonna sound bad because there's not much of one. And that's where this camera is gonna fall to pieces, I feel like, for videographers. Autofocus is slow, and there's no way really to do a good microphone input. There's a USB-C, but I mean, then you have to deal with that. So it just looks cool. That's about it. I'm assuming this autofocus test was not great. I really do like that it has haptics. So whenever the camera's off, you can't feel any of the directional pad when you press on it. You can't feel the play button, and you can't feel the menu button here. But whenever you turn it on, which boots up very quickly, if I must say, you can feel the play button and you can feel the other buttons, and it's just really cool that they've done that. Some of the things that I really do like about it are the aspect ratios. You have 21:9, 16:9, 3:2, 4:3, 6:7, and 1:1. The 21:9 is really close to the X-pan ratio. I wish they would have just done it so you could say it has X-pan, but they didn't. It was so close. But as you can see, the photos from it look great. They look so close that you wouldn't even know the difference unless you saw the X-pan photo. You have a lot of simulations on this camera as well, kind of like Fujifilm. So you can kind of go through and pick the ones that you want to shoot. If you're doing JPEG and RAW, I like to shoot on a few of them, but I just shoot RAW because I don't really care about the JPEGs personally. But it looks cool if you're shooting and you show somebody, and that's what I always did with Fujifilm, is like, I knew I wasn't ever going to use that JPEG, but it looked good on the back of the camera. So if you show somebody an image that you took of them, they would appreciate the edited look of it. And I think that's very powerful with this type of camera. One of the things that I really appreciate about this is that they gave you black and white or monochrome, but you can digitally put filters on those. So you can have green, yellow, red, orange filters on your black and white camera without actually having to buy filters for it. And I just found that to be so cool that they implemented that with this camera. The shutter sound is not great. I mean, it's digital, there's no shutter, which I'm used to now with the Z8, and it's been fine. But you do have problems with rolling shutter, and you also have problems with banding. It's very irritating. Like the Z8 doesn't have a banding issue, I guess because the readout speed is so fast, but this one definitely has some banding issues. Not having a rangefinder or a viewfinder period is really hard. I keep wanting to stick it up to my face. This is something I've been used to. I'm in my 30s, so I guess I'm getting kind of old now, and that's just something that I grew up with, and I really just love having a viewfinder. But where the world is now, a lot of people don't use them. I mean, people shoot like this all the time, and maybe this camera is for those type of people. I also think this camera is for somebody that does DP work because of all the aspect ratios, and honestly, it's so small and it just looks cool. And if you're a DP, more than likely you'd probably be able to afford something like this, and it wouldn't really hurt you that much. And you can change the focal lengths on it as well, which is awesome. That's where the Q's downfall definitely is if you're into that type of system, which I definitely love the 28mm, but it's nice to have something like this where you can change the focal lengths. Overall, my experience with this camera is that it is just as good as most cameras. It is a camera. It's a photo-centric camera. And I think that that's what they're leaning into more than anything. So if you love to take photos and you don't need a viewfinder and you're not needing redundancy, this would be a great camera for you because it's gonna do all those things very well. It's gonna shoot fast when you need it to. It has the cool aspect ratio. You can change the lenses. It looks cool as hell. This is the coolest camera that we've seen in a very long time. And it's the best camera Sigma's ever made because the ones in the past have not been the greatest, but they always make cool cameras. They're just not always great cameras. And this one, for what it is really good at what it does, and that is taking photos, in my opinion. I think that if you buy the silver one, you can only go with the Sigma lenses, you know what I mean? Because it does match so well and it looks so good. I'm using the 50 f2. Unfortunately, I wish I could have had the 24 so I could kind of compare it with the Leica Q, but I ended up with a 50mm. Not complaining, just saying I'm better with a wider angle lens. Yeah, it's been great. I love how it looks. I love the feel of it. It's awesome. The camera, it's not a bad camera at all. Honestly, there's no bad cameras in 2025. They're all fantastic. That's the thing, is like there's not a bad camera. There's definitely some that are form over function, that's for sure. This is definitely one of those. This is just a freaking expensive piece of aluminum, really. For me, this would be like a third camera that I would have. I wouldn't have it as a secondary, definitely not a primary. And I feel like it's really for somebody that loves cameras. I love cameras. I would buy this camera if I had a surplus of money, but I don't. So I'm probably not gonna buy this camera. But I could see it as if you are doing street work, this would definitely be a great camera for you. It's kind of inconspicuous, but at the same time, really pretty. I don't know. It's a cool camera, and I like using it, and I love Sigma because they produce the best lenses in the world, in my opinion. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this camera. I hope you enjoy these photos and this video, and until next time, peace.